Have you ever watched ants marching in a perfect line, carrying food many times their size, and wondered what's really going on inside their hidden world? What if you could bring that world into your own home, not as pests, but as fascinating creatures to observe, care for, and learn from every day? That's the magic of ant farming. Welcome to HowExpert Tip of the Day, where we bring you real-world tips from our how-to guides on all topics from A to Z. If you want to learn even more in-depth strategies, examples, and techniques on this topic, check out HowExpert Guide to Ant Farming, available at Amazon, Audible, Barnes & Noble, Google, Kobo, Apple, Spotify, and all major bookstores as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook. Ant farming, sometimes called Formicarium keeping, is the practice of raising ants in a controlled environment where you can watch their colony grow, forage, and thrive. What seems simple at first, a few ants in a glass container, actually reveals an entire society with complex roles, communication systems, and survival strategies. For hobbyists, educators, and curious minds, ant farming offers a window into biology, teamwork, and even patience. Today, we're going to break down what ant farming is, why it matters, and the key things you need to know to get started and succeed. The first key idea is that ant farming isn't just about keeping insects. It's about creating a miniature ecosystem. Every ant colony operates as a superorganism, meaning the ants function together like the organs in a single body. The queen lays eggs, workers gather food, soldiers defend the nest, and nurse ants raise the young. When you build an ant farm, you're not just housing individual insects, you're providing the stage where this entire living system can unfold before your eyes. That's why environment matters. Temperature, humidity, nesting space, and access to food all have to balance together. Think of it like gardening, except instead of plants, you're cultivating a colony. The second key point is the importance of choosing the right ants. Not all ant species are suitable for beginners. Some are too aggressive, some too delicate, and some have very specialized needs. For example, harvester ants are popular in classic plastic ant farms, but they can be aggressive and short-lived. Black garden ants, on the other hand, are hardy and easy to care for, making them perfect for new hobbyists. If you're ambitious, leafcutter ants are incredible to watch as they strip leaves and grow fungus gardens, but they require much more space and expertise. The rule of thumb: start simple. Just like you wouldn't buy a tiger as your first pet, don't start your ant farming journey with the most exotic species. The third thing to understand is the role of the queen. Every successful colony starts with her. Worker ants might be fun to watch, but without a queen, the colony has no future. Workers eventually die off and the farm fades. With a queen, the colony can grow, reproduce, and sustain itself for years, sometimes decades. A queen ant can lay thousands of eggs in her lifetime, and in the right conditions she'll turn your tiny starter setup into a thriving city of tunnels, chambers, and endless activity. So, when starting your ant farm, obtaining a healthy queen, often through a nuptial flight catch or a reputable seller, is one of the most critical steps. Think of her as the heart of the colony. Without her, you don't have a farm, you just have a temporary exhibit. The fourth point is all about habitat design. Traditional toy-like ant farms are often too shallow or too small to sustain a colony long-term. Serious ant keepers build or buy formicariums that mimic natural underground environments. These often include plaster, acrylic, or natural soil setups with chambers connected by tunnels. Proper ventilation, hydration systems, and escape-proof lids are essential. Remember, ants are escape artists. If there's a gap, they'll find it. A well-designed habitat not only keeps the ants safe but also makes their behavior visible to you. Watching them carve new chambers or transport larvae from one section to another is like watching a living documentary unfold in real time. Fifth, let's talk about feeding and nutrition. Ants may be small, but their diet is surprisingly diverse. Depending on the species, they may need proteins like insects, sugars like honey water, seeds, or even cultivated fungus. For instance, a colony of black garden ants thrives on sugar water and occasional protein from insects. Meanwhile, leafcutter ants famously use leaf material to grow their own fungal food source. The lesson here is, know your species. Feeding them properly not only sustains their health but also brings out their natural behaviors: scouting, foraging, teamwork, and communication. One fascinating fact is that ants use pheromone trails to guide others to food, so when you feed them, you may see the entire colony mobilize in perfect coordination. The sixth key point is patience and observation. Ant farming is not about instant gratification. Colonies grow slowly, and it can take months for a queen to establish enough workers to show significant activity, but that's part of the reward. Over time, you'll witness the rhythm of their lives. the eggs hatching into larvae spinning cocoons, workers tending to them, and eventually new ants joining the workforce. Observing these tiny dramas teaches patience and gives you a front-row seat to the wonders of nature's engineering. In many ways, ant farming is less like owning a pet and more like maintaining an ongoing science project that deepens your respect for the natural world. Finally, the seventh point is responsibility. Ants may be small, but keeping them is a real commitment. You have to maintain the habitat, provide regular food and water, and make sure conditions stay stable. You also need to be mindful of where your ants come from. Never release a non-native species into the wild, as it can disrupt local ecosystems. Ethical ant farming means enjoying this hobby while respecting the environment. Done right, it's both fun and educational, but done carelessly, it can have unintended consequences. So approach ant farming with curiosity, care, and responsibility. Now let's pull all of this together with a quick example. Imagine you start with a single queen black garden ant in a test tube setup. At first it seems like nothing is happening. She just lays a few eggs and guards them. Weeks later, those eggs turn into larvae, and eventually, a handful of workers emerge. You feed them a drop of sugar water, and suddenly they're active, exploring, foraging, and building. Months later, the colony expands into a proper Formicarium. Chambers fill with brood, workers bustle in every direction, and you begin to see a miniature city under glass. This slow, steady growth is the essence of ant farming. Ordinary at first glance, but extraordinary when you take the time to observe. So to recap, ant farming is about creating a miniature ecosystem, choosing the right ants, securing a queen, designing a proper habitat, feeding them correctly, practicing patience, and treating the responsibility seriously. Together, these principles turn a handful of insects into an ever-evolving colony you can observe and learn from for years. When you understand these essentials, you realize ant farming isn't just a quirky hobby. It's a chance to witness teamwork, resilience, and biology in action right before your eyes. The world of ants teaches us that even the smallest creatures can build something far greater together than they ever could alone. For even more tips, techniques, and practical examples on this topic, check out HowExpert Guide to Ant Farming, available at Amazon, Audible, Barnes & Noble, Google, Kobo, Apple, Spotify, and all major bookstores as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook. HowExpert publishes how-to guides on all topics from A to Z. Visit howexpert.com to learn more.